Hey everybody, Matt Doyon coming to you from Boston, and the topic today is getting to pain and impact fast. So at this point, we've now run more than 10,000 calls through our scoring logic, and one thing that keeps coming up again and again and again for really any sales team out there, regardless of size or industry or whether or not they're selling a highly consultative, long enterprise process or something more small business and transactional focused, one thing that keeps coming up is that the reps keep missing basic pain qualification and overwhelmingly missing impact, especially business impact, getting to the question of what happens if the status quo persists and this problem keeps going on. Now, when you follow up and start digging into the problem as far as why they're missing that, and especially these two very critical pieces of the process, uh, they all know the answer to the question. So if you sit people down who are in sales for even a short period of time and you ask them the question, they certainly know they need to get it. They will answer you as far as how to get it, usually, or how they think they should get it. Um, but then you listen to their calls and overwhelmingly see that they're not getting it and they're missing these critical criteria. So what's going on here is not that they don't know that they should get it. It's not that they don't know oftentimes what it looks like or what the qualifiers are. But where they oftentimes get tripped up is in not getting to it quickly enough. So oftentimes they know that they need to get to so many different checklist items on a call. They need to qualify so many different areas of the scorecard or the rubric or whatever the process dictates, and they very quickly go over certain pieces of the information that they need. So when they hear an initial pain point, they'll take it, check it off, and run with it and move on to something else. Or when they get a pain point, they really start to explore and go deep there. They really get a full picture of current state, situation, the challenge, the problem, but they just didn't leave enough time on the clock to get into impact and really the meaty stuff in the sale where understanding why the status quo needs to change, why living with that problem that the person has now needs to go away, and getting them to move beyond the status quo and say, yeah, I can't live with that anymore. So when you really explore this and investigate it, the best in class managers are starting to give the tools available to answer the call and really guide their reps into how to solve that problem of not only getting to pain and impact, but getting there early enough so you leave enough time in the call to go deep into those areas and really nail them down, in addition to all the other stuff that you need to gather during discovery conversations. One of the ways that I've learned is really effective in accomplishing that is something that we call positioning statements at TripleSession. A positioning statement, quite simply, is a statement that introduces a problem, a challenge, or even the impact of a problem or challenge, and really introduces that as the uh, industry learning and as the submission of information from the rep to the prospect. So it can sound something like, I work with sales leaders all the time, and something they tell me is it's just really hard to understand which deals are at risk early enough so they can jump in and impact them in time enough to save the deal and teach the rep. Is that something that you're encountering, something that you're up against? Outbound sales reps and really experienced BDRs who do outbound for a living know how to use positioning statements like this really, really well because they're starting the problem conversation. They don't have anywhere else to go. They weren't introduced to problem by the prospect. They need to introduce those problems. But we shouldn't leave those just to those prospecting conversations. Great, seasoned, experienced AEs and especially senior level experienced enterprise AEs will tactfully use positioning statements to introduce problems and impact throughout the discovery process. In order to really accelerate the gathering of that information, they'll present it, say, hey, this is a problem we hear all the time. This is the negative impacts, the outcomes that are adverse that you want to avoid from a problem like that, Can you confirm that that's your situation too? So we can kind of get right into it. And they'll launch with that. They'll get that submitted really early on. They'll get the prospect engaged to say, well, yeah, now that you mention it, that is my situation. That is what's going on. Yeah, that negative stuff of losing money or running at a higher risk is inevitably going to happen if I don't fix this problem. And then you can launch from there to diving deeper into that once you've gotten that checkpoint of acknowledgement that the problem or impact happened. So, the advice here and the key coaching takeaway is don't just sit back and wait for trying to pull and dance around problem and impact questioning and hope that you can just easily grab that information from prospects and work it out of them gradually with some tactful Q&A. Go right after it with a positioning statement. Hey, I've noticed from other people in your situation that are working in roles like yours at companies like yours, they're experiencing this. Is that your reality? Is that what's going on? Okay, it is. And typically when that persists, this negative impact happens, or this horrible outcome, or these other people in the organization are impacted by it as well. How does that stack up with your reality? And then it introduces those conversations from a very genuine, a very authoritative way, and you're introducing those problems and then launching into potential solutions from there. So don't leave positioning statements just for that introductory problem definition from an outbound call. Bring them into your discovery and use them to accelerate the value of the conversation early.